Germans are the rudest people I know.
You might die a little inside, but at least you got some honest feedback. But you messed up. Us Americans get criticized for being too nice, too fake all the time. When I traveled to Germany for my first time, I was absolutely fascinated by every little thing I saw, to the point where there were things that obviously existed in the United States that I saw that existed in Germany, and I was still baffled. I was taking everything in. Some people thought my reaction was pretty inauthentic. They're like, dude, you have some of this stuff in the United States. Why are you freaking out? And, you know, I had my reasons, right? I was very grateful to be there. I finally made it to Germany in the first place. So I was very, very happy, very excited. I didn't want to take anything for granted, but I could tell that people were like, yeah, you're coming off as being a little fake. You're too expressive. You're too excited. And I'm like, dang, okay. I didn't care. I kept doing my own thing. Well, naturally, when I landed, people wanted me to try all different types of food that I had never tried before. So I was trying everything and whatnot, and I liked pretty much everything. There were a few things I did not really care for too much, like Mettbrötchen.
Amerikaner testet deutsches Essen. Bist du bereit? Are you ready?
Yeah.
For a Mettbrötchen. This is called Mettbrötchen. It's raw meat.
Raw meat. Is it like, what type of meat is it?
Human.
It's like, you know, raw pork and stuff. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. When I was asked how I liked it, I was like, it's not bad. It's an acquired taste, instead of just saying I didn't like it. And that is the theme of today's video. You've probably heard from us Americans that Europeans come off as very cold because they are very direct. But I guess my question to you guys is, where's that line in the sand when directness becomes rudeness? So if you guys are new to the channel, welcome. If you guys are returning viewers, welcome back. Please, please, please help us hit 1 million subscribers by liking that video and subscribing if you haven't already.
Germans are the rudest people I know. And I don't even think they notice anymore, because being direct and being ehrlich and honest here in Germany is just normal. When I first came here and I was strolling along these cold German sidewalks, I happened to step on this pink part of the sidewalk, and suddenly a bike just whooshes past me. The person just shouts, "Vollidiot!"
Well, I'm gonna stop you right there, because I went through the same thing. Sir, you messed up. I hate to be the one to tell you this, but you messed up. I was in Germany myself, and mind you, I had watched a lot of videos on this topic before. I will admit, when I was walking in some circumstances, the sidewalk, it didn't seem, in some parts of the sidewalk, and where I was walking in Germany, it didn't seem definitive as far as the discoloration, because the sidewalk itself was just so dirty that it all looked gray to me. You know what I mean? But of course there was a bike lane, and I was standing in it. So people were whizzing by, calling me all kinds of names, and I understand why. I would have done the same thing if I was in the bike lane.
All I could think was, did he just call me a slur? Another time I was just telling my friend, oh, I really miss my brother and sister. They're getting so big. And Ludwig's automatic response was, of course they will get big. It's because you are so small.
So initially when I saw this, I'm like, dang, oh my God, Ludwig, like, what's wrong with you? But then something clicked, because I've also been in an interaction like this before as well. Trust me, I've been to Germany enough times to have had this interaction. And of course, in my channel, if you go way back, I've been obsessed with Germany for a long time. I don't know everything there is to know about Germany. I'm not saying I'm a know-it-all, but I have had this experience, so I could speak on it. Yes, it came off very rude, because yeah, I guess it was pretty rude, but also let's look at it from a different perspective. I think,
of course they will get big. It's because you are so small.
There was an attempt at a joke. You guys might be looking at me crazy like, James, what do you mean? Dry humor in Germany specifically, it needs to be studied, because, oh my God, I thought dad jokes were dry, right? We have dad jokes in the US, right? They've propagated throughout the world and whatnot, and people are like, oh, these are your dad jokes. I mean, there's different types of humor all over the world, right? But in the United States, we have dad jokes, dry jokes that are simple, they're kind of dumb, but they're funny. And German humor, a lot of it is very dry. You're gonna need some water, okay, to wash it down, because that's what this gave. This gave dry ass humor. What gave it away to me, it's like, oh, I miss my siblings. They've gotten so big. And he's like,
of course they will get big. It's because you are so small.
That's an attempt at a joke. That is an attempt at a joke. If you guys agree with me in the comments down below, please let me know, because it seems like this was just a dry joke that didn't land, and it's very common.
Are you all right? Yes. No, you are all left.
What the fuck?
One time I asked a native German speaker a simple question that I thought would be harmless. Why is the German word for tie feminine? Die Krawatte. But the German word for skirt is masculine. Der Rock. You know what Ludwig said to me?
Very valid question, but I'm also gonna, interject here because I've had plenty of questions like that. Der die das. Okay, der die das. Many people will never understand the true reason why die Schule, der Schule, das Schule, you know what I'm saying? Die Nutella, das Nutella, der Nutella. We don't understand. Tons of people don't understand. And you kind of just have to roll with the punches. You speak German long enough, it'll just start making sense. There is a system. Trust me, there is a system, but it's just like the English language. There is a system, but sometimes the system has its exceptions.
If you don't like it, just go back to your country then. What I took away from all those interactions is if you want brutal honesty, don't ask your mama, don't ask your best friend, don't ask anybody else. Ask a German.
Now, this last part was very unfortunate because this does not only happen in Germany, this has happened in the United States at a very heightened rate as of recent. Also, there's another little piece that I want to talk about at the end of this, but let's talk about what he said.
If you don't like it, just go back to your country then.
That's rude. Obviously had a very valid question because German is very confusing and all he had to do was say, I don't know, or hey, ask somebody else. Super simple. Dude was being a dickhead. So yeah, that's clear as day. But what pisses me off is if there's a minor inconvenience, there's a minor problem or someone raises a minor piece of criticism in any country, the response is usually go back to your own country if you don't like it. Not one time did he say he didn't like it. He was just trying to understand it. And this happens in the United States quite a bit. There's a lot of things in the United States that need to be fixed. It's very clear it needs to be fixed. I told you guys all the time. I mean, you guys see it. I mean, I don't have to say it, but you guys have seen on the news and you guys have seen through other medias that we're going through it right now. We are going through it. And anytime I bring it up to other fellow Americans, most of the time they agree. They're like, yeah, there's a lot that needs to be done. Here's what we can do, blah, 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 blah. But then there's some very hardcore patriotic Americans or self-proclaiming patriotic Americans that are like, well, if you don't like it here, you can leave. And I'm like, So you're saying you're complicit with the problems that we're having currently in the United States. You're saying if I have a problem with the issues that are currently in the United States, I should leave because that'll fix the problem. Me getting mad that both you and I have to pay a server's wage in a restaurant setting because corporate got away with not paying that individual minimum wage is such a big problem that I should move and all of a sudden that issue will disappear. Or how about people being wrongfully detained and deported even though they have their citizenships? Don't you think that maybe we might be on the chopping block too? If they're deporting regular US citizens, who's to say that we're not next in the chopping block? But yeah, if I leave, of course the issue goes away. And it's such an ignorant way of thinking. Like, if you don't like it here, you can leave. Now listen, I do understand there's other contexts where it's like, oh, there's just things that are cultural differences that you need to adapt to because that is how the culture is. And if you can't adapt to that, then I understand where that's saying, well, you could always go back to wherever you were from if you're more comfortable there. That makes sense. But if you're asking a question trying to educate yourself more about the country or the culture or pieces of history and stuff like that, and it's innocent, right? It's just straight up curiosity, and you're met with an answer like that, yeah, it's rude. They're so proud of being honest until you start being honest to them. Yeah, that is something I got to experience as well. I mean, it's like, well, since we're offering honest criticism, hey, that haircut not really working for you, big dog. You should consider getting a different one. Hey, now that can be very rude and it could also be brutally honest. Depends on, how you see things. But yes, I do think that there's some truth to this. Not all the time, but quite a bit. And I did. It's like, well, since we're being honest, G. Willikers Batman, this, and this. And I don't know. It's like a matter of factism, right? So it's like, oh, well, thank you so much for being honest about being honest in the situation where you gave your unwarranted opinion. Let me go ahead and return the favor. And I know us Americans, we love kind of dishing back what we receive, where we start off friendly a lot of times and entitled and a lot of other things. And if we are met with like some type of pushback or hostility, then we dish it back. As a German, I would not be a friend of Ludwig. He's a rude guy. His answer makes me sad. Yeah, generally speaking, and his jokes suck, okay? His jokes suck. Also, people do have different ways of interacting with friends and stuff too. So I have seen some very crazy things. But if you're genuinely curious about how the language works, how the culture works, and you're trying to ask the source, and the source is like, L plus ratio, nerd, get out of here, then And, it's rude. If you don't want to hear the answer, you shouldn't ask. There's also truth to this as well. That's why I'm saying this comment section is very contentious, because on one hand, the friend was being pretty rude, and it did seem like the friend didn't want to explain anything. On the other hand, if you don't want to hear the answer to your question, you might not want to ask the question. Now, that applies to different situations, I feel like. And I guess you could say it applies to every situation where you ask a question in general, but I do feel like this particularly applies to questions where you're asking for an opinion on something. Like in the United States, if a woman's like, oh, does this dress make me look fat? And, we're like, let's say it does. And we're like, we don't want to hurt the person's feelings. We're like, no, it doesn't. You look good in the dress, But the question was, does the dress make me look fat? And you're like, instead of saying no, you're like, you look very good in that dress, And we move on about our day. That person walks away with confidence. We walk away feeling good that we didn't offend anybody. Boom. You asked that question in Germany, brother. Let's just say the conversation gonna go real different. Germans aren't just honest and direct. They're simply mean, and it's disguised as Ehrlichkeit, honesty. This is mainly because they're not honest to themselves. I feel like that's a pretty massive generalization. I don't think that's true. Now, I do understand that people do come off very abrasive and a little brutal with the honesty in Germany and stuff, but it depends on the situation. Because at the end of the day, I feel like you have to analyze the totality of the situation you're in. What was the question you asked? What was the response you received? And did it line up? Did it line up? You know what I mean? A lot of times it doesn't line up the way that we want it to. And it comes off as people being pretentious and rude just for the sake of being pretentious and rude. But if you look at what you're asking, and it depends on the situation, which I can give plenty of examples, like you cook something, for instance, you're like, wow, like I cooked pizza for the first time. Boom. How does it taste? They bite it like, oh my God, I've smelled fecal matter more pleasant than this. And you're like, ooh, I guess I take that as it's not good. Thanks, I appreciate it. You might die a little inside, but at least you got some honest feedback in a very creative way. But then other times, people can just be rude for the sake of being rude. But that's, again, the cultural difference here is, yes, people are very, very direct. And a lot of us Americans are not used to that. A lot of people from other countries aren't even used to that. Dude's never been to the Netherlands. We are always amazed by how polite Germans are. Oh, so there's levels to this shit. The Netherlands is even more brutal. What do y'all be doing over there? How brutal is the honesty in the Netherlands? How much more honest can you get? Oh my God. As a German, Ludwig sounds like an asshole. That's not German directness. That's just offensive and rude, especially the go back to your country for a valid question of confusion about the German language. I know this is supposed to be a joke video, but if you really have a friend like that, I would find a new friend. Obviously, this video is a skit, but it's highlighting something that he probably personally went through. And I've definitely gone through this myself. So I'm like, crazy. Common denominator here, though, is the go back to your own country statement, because I have heard that in my own country, okay? The United States of America. It hasn't been said to me, but I've heard people say that before. Like, go back to your own country if you don't like it here. Those are not brutally honest Germans. Those are racist Germans and a cyclist. Don't get me started on German cyclists. We have racist Germans in heaps these recent years, depending on where you are. Hamburg has way less so far, but don't think we are all like that. And this is where I was saying the comment section is very, it was beefing pretty hard, okay? Because I don't think the statements were racist, except for the last one that was like, go back to your own country if you don't like it here, blah, blah, blah. Maybe that, right? But I think it was more just rude, like very rude. Like, okay, this person is very curious and they're invested in learning about your culture. Very valid questions were asked. Like, yeah, why is it that a tie is feminine and a dress is masculine in the German language? That's a very great question. But again, there die das, brother. There die das. Listen, I understand it is confusing. It is confusing, and a lot of people just can't explain it. I'm also honest and direct, but it depends on the topic, on my counterpart, and whether the person also wants a direct opinion. Empathy is the key word. I think I basically highlighted that earlier in this video, but yeah, of course, it just depends on the situation and the level of honesty you're looking for, right? Obviously, like I said before, if you ask certain questions, you're going to get answers. And if you want the why behind that, you can inquire and they'll give you the why. But a lot of times, like, yeah, the directness is something that a ton of people appreciate and stuff in Germany, but then a lot of people can take it the wrong way. And also it can be weaponized and be considered very rude because, again, if you give your unsolicited opinion to someone, then it does come off as rude because it is, depending on what it is, right? There's just so many angles to look at the situation, which is why I wanted to bring this up, because I have gone through this myself. I have witnessed this myself. There were other people that were not from Germany that were traveling with me. And I was like, they went through some things. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of crazy because I went through something similar. Okay, maybe you should first educate yourself about the country and its customs before you move here. You cry because our country is too direct for you. Are we supposed to change now because of people who come to us? You don't like our mentality, then leave. How disrespectful to sit here in public and rant about a country where you seem to live very well. Also, you can't move to China or Italy and then rant about the people there. What is wrong? What is wrong with you? Part of this was okay until we got to the end of that comment. And I'm like, hold the hell up. What is going on? Because I say this all the time. Educate yourself before you travel to whatever country you're traveling to, because you can avoid a lot of problems simply by educating yourself. But I do feel like, in general, one of the biggest criticisms I had when I went to Germany is I'm like, if people were a little bit nicer, I feel like there'd be net positive interactions through and through. But it doesn't have to be fake niceness. It's just, you don't have to be a dick, right? You don't have to go out of your way to be a dick to somebody. If you're just nice, then it makes your interactions better. For instance, if you travel to any other country and stuff, you're like, okay, cool, boom, 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 boom. If you're respectful and you're polite, then your interactions most of the time will be very respectful and enjoyable. But if you're not on that same level and you're very hostile and you're impatient and you're rude, then you're going to have a very rough time. Where does directness end and rudeness begin?